All right, so I'm back with Fat and Scrappy on what we're going to call our Mea Culpa show. Yes, I see that, and we're going to get to that in a second. The Mea Culpa, for those of you that don't know Latin, is basically what we got wrong. And
I ain't apologizing for nothing. Don't even think about
it. Right, dragging him on here was extremely difficult. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to rehash all the weights and all the different things and everything else, but there were some really good individual performances that we may not have said anything about necessarily some of these wrestlers during the previews. And this is our opportunity to, I mean, you said it on the mat. We now get to say it on YouTube or wherever. But before we get to that, Lucas and I and Georgia Grappler, we do appreciate the fact that the GHSA was very gracious in giving us access. And I mean, it was great. This weekend was fantastic as far as our ability to cover things.
So, like I said on my video that I posted, that's kind of went a little mini viral when it comes to the wrestling community. I may have a lot of gripes with Don Core and the GHSA and the way the tournament was ran in certain circumstances, but the one thing I did give them credit for is they finally saw the error of their ways and gave media members an opportunity to get on the mat to cover the sport in the way that we need to for the athletes, for the benefit of the athletes. So I will tip the cap to them. I may not agree with a lot of what they do, but on this one, they made the right call, and it was great to see you, Georgia Grappler. Was it Huntsville? I'm unfamiliar with him because I never met that guy. There was one other guy there.
Who? You're talking about Tony Greathouse? Who was sitting up with us?
Yes.
So Tony is the person who runs Michigan Grappler, basically owns Grappler.
No, not him. No, somebody else, an older gentleman.
I don't know. Not off the top of my head.
Either way, but it was great. Chloe, obviously, Amber, she did her thing. She's the best in the business. I tip my cap to her. It was just really cool, and I hope that this is a sign of things to come. And I hope that that we're going to continue moving this direction where media members can do our job to cover the sport the right way.
I agree, and I appreciate you coming down and helping me out. But let's jump into this. Let's jump with the girls, because we're going to go ahead and shame Georgia Grappler at the very beginning by saying, what's up, guys? You need to cover the girls. The girls need coverage just as much as everybody else. But you did make picks as far as the girls go. I want to go ahead and put the caveat in terms of what my picks were, because they weren't really picks. They were who I thought was a favorite. You could call that a pick, but I had limitations when I wrote my fans' guides.
You picked against Genevieve. You told me in private you thought she was going to get sixth.
You are lying now. Everybody knows that's a lie. But my limitations were the favorite had to be one of the section champs. So that is what it is. It limited me in some situations, like with Genevieve and that weight class, because neither of the finalists were section champs. But it also helped me in other weight classes because, a person I could have picked, say like a Christian Bell, I wasn't going to be able to pick, so it was easier to pick Caleb Pruitt. Anyway, that's what that is. Let's go through this. As we start with the girls, you were 10 of 14. I was 11 of 14. You missed down low with Eaton and Weiland. Betances, who I probably said that wrong, although they told me. Spencer,
Betances.
we both got right. We both missed at 120. Moore and Garner, and it was Fields of Cedartown who came through and won.
Shout out to her. She wrestled
120 pounds. Jasmine Jenkins Bay was picked by both of us. 130, we also got wrong. And that was, you picked, I think, Abby Plemons.
Yeah, I picked Plemons.
I had Mariana Perez, and we saw, I don't know if it's Ellie or Elle Kaufman from Lovett, tip of the cap.
I believe it's Ellie. I believe.
And she came through and won. And then further down, obviously, you're making reference to Genevieve On, who took home the title. And really, let's be honest, looked dominant. And I mean, she looked locked in all business.
Well, first off, she's an incredible wrestler, and I say this knowing that I'm probably gonna get murdered for saying this. Listen, she didn't have to run into Soto again. That's all I know.
That's true. That's true. She did
She
not.
might murder me for saying that because I love Genevieve. If anybody knows me, like that's like my little sister. She's an amazing wrestler, and like you said, she was dominant, took care of business weekend. But like, can we just agree that when it comes to two best friends, her and Maya, because I'm gonna continue to be annoying about it, are the two most opposite humans on the planet. Genevieve gets up, wins, stone cold face, does like May gets up immediately. And then the freaking dab, like in 2015. But
yeah,
no,
well, I captured a bunch of the celebrations and they were all over the place. They were all over the place in terms of
one more
what
thing about
people
these
did.
celebrations. If I see one more person try to hit a backflip and neck themselves, I'm going to lose it. Guys, if you want, or girls, if you want to hit a backflip after winning a state championship, that's fine. Do 2 or 3 after a tough practice. Just to be sure you can hit them while you're tired. Like, just to be sure. Because Thomas Rorden and Tyler Nelson, I thought were going to break their necks. And I'm like, oh God, they're gonna win the state title and go off on a stretcher.
I don't remember Tyler Nelson doing a backflip. I
Oh,
definitely
Nelson's
remember
no.
Thomas Rorden.
Rorden's was sketchy. That was sketch, Thomas, and you know that. But we'll get there when we get there.
All right. So, again, May Prado, Greta Garbazovas, Raven Cook, Ashley Godinez, Taylor Scheiser, and Lily Chavez, all won state titles. They were all picked. But, for the most part, the girls, I wouldn't say they went exactly according to plan, but yeah, it was a good run for the girls.
Yeah, I mean, in my picks I got wrong. I mean, the one that looking back, I'm like, man, it is at 100 pounds. I like Caitlin Brown, but looking back at some of her losses and looking at who Artemis Eaton got some wins over earlier in the year that I just didn't know she had wins over. If there's one I could do over, it would be at 100 pounds. And obviously that's no, like I'm not, look, I went 10-4. I'm happy with that prediction. Because there are some people that think I know nothing in this sport. So 10-4 to me is a good little weekend.
Well, and to be fair, better than we did in some of the other classes. So we'll get to that in a
minute. We'll get there.
All right.
No, I only had one that I was like, that wasn't great.
All right, so let's go to 1A. And down low, Connor Doherty, Braden Mitchell, definitely picked by both you and I, and as well as Georgia Grappler.
What was our records? I want to know our records.
Our records first. Up front. You were 10-14. George Grappler was 9-14, and I was 11-14. So the 3 that we missed, we all missed the same. Okay, the 3 that I missed, you guys also missed, and that was 126, where you're going to get a lot of grief from CJ Duran, Social Circle.
Listen, I don't care. For those that don't know, that kid's like my little brother. If you haven't seen my Instagram story, go watch it. I put in my highlights where I'm losing my mind the last like 30 seconds of his match. That kid's like my little brother. I love his father. I love his whole family. I should have picked the hot hand, but I went with Huskins because Huskins has been a little bit more consistent throughout the year. I have never been more happy to be wrong about a prediction. Me and Nate Etheridge were crying on each other's shoulder after that match. Shout out CJ. I love you, bud. You did the thing. Now we got the off season. But yeah, I was wrong on that one. And honestly, I'm very okay with being wrong.
Up at 144 pounds, we were also wrong. All 3 of us picked Lance Thacker. And shout out to the Temple crew, Braderick Bennett. Oh, man, I'll tell you what, Coach Moister's got something going on at Temple, and Bennett looked fantastic. All right. And then at 215, we all picked Hokpo Hogan. And, I heard from the Landon Williams crew a little bit. I thought it was going to be a great match. I just went who I thought might win. I mean, one of the favorites, but I mean, Williams was fantastic.
Williams wrestled lights out, and I'll tell you ahead of time, that's my 1A upset of the tournament. On my website, if you guys haven't seen, I picked upsets of the tournament. I mean, listen, Landon Williams is a stud, but when we're making our picks ahead of time, I think I even said it that Williams is a stud. Don't get that twisted. but I thought Hoke had the edge. When we got to Macon, I heard the murmurings from people of, hey, you might want to be careful at 250. I'm like, we'll see. And I'm going to say this, because I don't know if you were there and saw the kind of almost half altercation that took place with me and a certain somebody.
No.
I know some of the coaches from Dade County, so if we're going to banter, that's fine. Don't say I know nothing about wrestling when I've been doing this for 17 years and I was really good at it. Especially if you're not going to make picks of your own, ma'am. Gonna leave that there. Gonna leave that to the ether. If you were there, you know what I'm talking about. We'll leave that there. But shout out, Landon Williams wrestled incredibly and got the job done.
So, and then the last thing I would say is at 285, I will go ahead and, I picked Williamson. You guys both picked McLean. That was one of the differences. So there was that. Congratulations to all the 1A winners. Yeah, so at this point in time, if we're keeping track of just the guys in terms of the lead and everything else, I'm in the lead. You're in second, Georgia Grappler's in third. As we move to 2A, and now we come back a little bit. You were 8-14, I was 8-14, and Georgia Grappler was 10-14. All three of us missed 106 and 113, where Brandon Locke won at 106 and Hagen Sharp beat Blake Summers at 113. Fantastic wrestling by those two.
A little controversy at 113. Shout out to Hagen. Sometimes you got to just wrestle what happens in the match. And shout out to Brandon Locke. I like that kid a lot. North Murray's first ever state champion. Shout out Coach Thornberry and the crew up there. They're turning things around up there. And shout out to Locke. That kid wrestled a great tournament.
Yeah, so at 144, both you and I picked Wilson, who lost a close one to one of the Collis boys. Collis boys, shout out to them in that twins back-to-back at weights won it for Fannin County. That's pretty cool. Jump into 157. This is a kid that I actually put down as a dark horse, and that was Keelan Wally, who defaulted to sixth, came all the way through and won. You had Roundtree, I had Roundtree, George Grapper had Leggett, but Wally, man, it coming from a six, I don't know the last time a six come all the way through and won.
I would say I want to get some information. There were a couple of them this weekend. There were a couple 5 or 6s that went through the bracket.
Yeah, we'll have to delve into that later and kind of see what that looks like.
Yeah, at some point, like when we're not worried about looking at our predictions and we're worried about just stats, where we could just kind of splooge over all the weird stuff that happened.
Well, and one of the things that happened was at 190, where we all picked Tank Morris, who was returning runner-up, and Noah Allman came through and won. And at 215, you had Lyons from Pierce County take the title, and at least you and I picked Will Watts. So 2A was a little tougher for you and I.
Yeah, it was a little bit tougher for sure. I think that's what we kind of talked about with 2A, where it was so wide open, except for Rockmart. We all kind of had the feeling that Rockmart was going to finish 1. Once you left them, it was kind of like, all right, what's going to happen? And can we say 2A has the most, how do I word this? It has the most teams that have 1 or 2 kids that are really, really good, and the rest of the team maybe yeah.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I mean, there's a couple classifications. It's hard because there's some where there's certainly like some dominant performances. Like, I mean, as good as 120 was, a good example, as good as Angel Cruz and Alan Calderon were, TK Davis is just...
It didn't matter.
It's just a different level.
It didn't matter. I mean, TK Davis put on a show this weekend. Like, let's just call it what it is.
Yeah. All right, so let's jump to 3A, where, man, you took it on the chin. Ugh.
I was listen, I went 7-7, and this is but if you look back at 3 of my losses, they're overtime matches that I'm losing. Like, it's not like I'm...
No excuses. No excuses.
You got me here. hey, come talk to me when we hit 4, where we hit 5A and 7A. Come talk to me then.
Georgia Grappler was 10-14. I was 11-14. To be fair to you, there are no excuses, but to be fair to you, the Adonis Sanchez Juan Rafael match was Yes, I mean, it was one of the matches that you're talking about, and it could have gone Sanchez's way. He was there. He was right in on the takedown. We got the win with Rafael. He ended up winning the title, but you're right. It was right there. All three of us got Grayson Cooper incorrect from Bremen. It was Mason Persons from Columbus who ended up taking the title at 113. And then 132. Boy, Austin Marshall came through, won that weight class. We struggled a little bit. All three of us picked different wrestlers. All three of us had different wrestlers, and none of us could come up with the champ there. Yeah, some of the other weights, you guys picked Philip Jacks. You and I had Gage Lee up at 150, Fairbanks up at 190. So as a whole, what made 3A so tough for you?
The only thing I could say is there were just certain matches where like the one that I'm going to continue to talk about is at 190, you had Nichols knock off Fairbanks in overtime. And Fairbanks, if he makes his way through that bottom side, he beat Jacinto at one point earlier. There were so many matches that happened, and and a lot of them happened in the middle of the bracket where it was like, what is going on here? Now, I'm not going to be this guy, but I'm going to prove point. We talk about the way the tournaments run. Sometimes wrestling those first rounds without any matches beforehand, it hurts some guys.
So you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
I know I'm not wrong. I know I'm not. That's why I said it. Being a bit of a smart aleck, but
no, and honestly, and we're not going to get into these weeds, but it also hurts.
We'd be here for 3 hours.
It also hurts the teams that have so many with buys and their best wrestlers not being able to get them bonus points. Anyway.
I'm gonna campaign for this 16-man brackets as God intended.
All right, so we didn't do this with 2A and 1A, and we're gonna come back to it. But in 3A, you picked Columbus. It was a heck of a pick. I mean, they had 4 state champions, wrestled fantastic. If Tyler Wynn if he doesn't go out injured, they probably win that state title. They do not, though. Georgia Grappler picked Pickens, which was another good pick. I mean, but the distance between the teams in 3A was nothing. I mean, really nothing all the way through the tournament. Gilmer ends up taking the title. We're not surprised by Gilmer taking the title, though.
I'm not either. It was just kind of one of those things where, Tyler Wynn, God, I feel bad for that kid, man. Just can't stay healthy, but, God bless him. Hoping for the quick recovery for him. But, I mean, you're right. If Wynn's in that lineup, you kind of shift around where some of Columbus's guys go. I think we're looking at a whole different state tournament.
Yeah. All right, down to 2A, because I already missed it. Rockmart, I mean, we already talked about it. They won the state title, and you guys both, you and Georgia Grappler, picked them. Down in 1A, you both picked Pisgah, and man, Social Circle came through, wrestled their tails off, especially on the backside, get a bunch of points, and they took the title.
See, this is what makes me mad is, I picked Pisgah once, and this is when Social Circle decides to do their job. This is when. But if I picked Social Circle, Pisgah would have won. That, right? That's how this would have worked.
Of course. I mean, I'm quite sure everybody's saying they don't want Lucas to pick them.
It freaking seems like it at this point, to be fair.
All right, jump into 4A. Boy, you did okay. 8 of 14. Georgia Grappler and I, 6 of 14. Man, it was harsh. To be fair, and if we're going to be fair, I picked Ollie Webb. You guys both picked Alex Hyman. And that was a hell of a match down low.
I'm going to say that
either way.
That might be my 4A That might be my 4A match of the tournament. I didn't pick a best match because I didn't watch every match where I would like to have. But boy, that match was a barn burner. Like, hats off to both him and Ollie Webb. They put on an absolute clinic of beautiful wrestling. Lots of great exchanges. Like, that was a very fun
Very
match.
high level wrestling. Yeah, I
Yes.
agree. At 120, you picked Ty Murray. Congratulations, that was right. We did not. We both got Kusky and Peyton. And then from 138 to 157, we got all three of us got every single weight wrong.
It gets even worse. If you extend your way down to 215, I hit 2. I hit Manson, Moss. Everything else I missed. From Peyton to Moss, I hit 1. I hit man. That was it.
Right.
I was sitting
got,
there like, what is going on?
But you're not the only one, man. You're not the only one. From 38 to 215. What is that? What? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 weight classes. We went 2 of 8 or 2 of 6. All three of us went 2 of 6. Mance and Moss are the only 2 that we actually got right in that stretch.
That's incredible.
Well, and let's go ahead and give a shout out to some of the Southwest DeKalb boys, man. They were in the middle of there taking wins with Darren Smith, Baskins, and Scott. And you know, yeah, we picked against them.
I'll tell you this: you want to talk about it. You want to talk about a team I didn't have ranked when it came to team rankings? We'll see when those new rankings. By the way, new rankings probably drop March 1st. Probably gonna drop March 1st. The postseason rankings.
So I can't wait. I can't wait. This is gonna be great. I'm actually also
be in there.
I'm also gonna do Southeast rankings at once Florida finishes in a couple of weeks. So we'll get to that in a bit. All right, in 4A, you did pick Lovett. I mean, that was a surprise in our picks.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. We skipped a weight.
Well, wait.
Big ups, Caleb Pruitt. Get the job done at heavy. Way to send him off in his career.
I skipped him because you and I picked him.
True. And him and Bell put on a great heavyweight wrestling match.
Oh, it was fantastic.
If you think heavyweights wrestle on train tracks and you haven't really watched a lot of high-level heavyweight matches, go find that match. It's a 3-2 match, not high scoring, but the level of wrestling is elite from both of those guys. They put on a hell of a show, both of them.
All right, jumping to 5A, we did much better. You were 10 of 14. Georgia Grappler was 12 of 14. They only missed 2 weights, 138 and 215, which are weights that we also missed. And I was 11 of 14. Those 2 weights, Connor Kimbrough at 138, it was won by Davis Dollar, and Jason Aligwe of Loganville fell to Charles Higdon. Both tough losses. I think both those wrestlers are seniors who fell in those matches. It's tough to watch the seniors get so close so many times and not come away with a title.
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough seeing it. Like, I feel for them.
And then, let's jump down. I mean, I'm not going to list all the winners because we actually did pretty well. I will say in 5A, Cass and Jefferson was a fantastic battle. Jefferson going 7 for 7 in the state finals. That's
what did it for him. That's what did it for him.
Well, I mean, when we started the state finals, if I said, I'll bet you $100 that they won't go 7 for 7. I mean, I'm guaranteeing that you're not taking that bet, right? I mean, you know that you didn't believe they were going to go 7 for 7, did you?
Oh no, I wouldn't take that bet. No, I was okay. Give me the under, but I'm gonna say they're gonna lose 1, and I would have been giving you money.
Right. That was crazy. All right, jump into 6A. Again, not bad. I was 8 of 14. You were 9 of 14. Georgia Grappler was 10 of 14. Let's talk about the weights that we got wrong. And again, these are weights that, boy, it could have gone lots of different directions. 138, you and I picked Morgan, and Georgia Grappler picked Derek Council, and Thomas Rhodes came through with a big win. I think that was overtime. To take the 138-pound title. And then the other one that all 3 of us missed, because we missed a couple throughout, was 285, where you and I had Moss and George Grappler had Good Game, and Ashton Anderson from South Effingham came through.
Mustangs.
Man, came through and won the 285 title over Jalen Tate. one of the, as I'm thinking about this, next year we should try to not only make the picks, but we should actually kind of go, which is the most difficult weight to pick, and then
I'm down.
see if we're right, because where that the possibility is that we miss those. We only got 6, 13, 26, Pacheco, McElligott, Spalding, Karpinski at 50, and then we got 75, 90, and 215 with Schaefer, Hacker, and Lowe. Those 6 were shared amongst us. Otherwise, we had some losses in there. Was there anyone that wrestled unbelievably great that you want to give a shout out to in 6A?
Yeah, actually, give me one sec, because I want to be sure that I don't speak out of turn here. My 6A wrestler of the tournament was Latrell Schaefer. He obviously put on an absolute clinic, dominant all weekend. But I want to give a special tip of the cap to Ashton Anderson, heavyweight out of South Effingham. He went and took care of business. Came from, I think, was he a 3 or a 4? I know he had a first round. I know he had a first round match.
Oh, did he?
I think.
You know what? I can look it up right
here. While he does that, I might as well. I want to go over my wrestlers of the tournament.
No, he was a 2. He was a 2.
He was 2. Okay. I picked a wrestler of the tournament, and this was based purely on their performance at the tournament. 1A, I picked Logan Eller. 4A, I picked Chris Mance. 5A, Jake Craps. 6A, Latrell Schaefer. 2A, Jace Davis. 3A, Anthony Manella. 7A, Drew Gorman. And in the girls, I picked Maya Prado.
So what you're saying there, though, is that you're not saying that's necessarily the best wrestler in the classification.
No, that's
the wrestler who had the best state tournament.
Yes.
Got it. And going back to hang on for just a second, going back to what you were saying about Ashton Anderson, he was a 2, he did have a bye, then he won 4-2, 4-3, and then tiebreakers to win.
Jesus.
That's fun. That is fun. So
that's nuts.
6A team race was kind of like 3A in that it was super hard to pick. There was a lot of teams in the mix. You went with North Forsyth. George Grappler went with South Effingham, and the Circle W, they ended up taking the title with Coach Reagan, putting together. Let's be honest. I mean, you graduate Singleton, Filipowicz, McBride.
I'm convinced Jeff Reagan is Ra's al Ghul. He has to have the Lazarus pit that somehow he just find ways to win team titles. He has to have the Lazarus pit. Has to.
Well, his teams came through. This is a team effort, in my opinion, a real team effort. Shout out to Woodward Academy on winning that. And yeah, they look great. All right, jump into 7A. You were 10 of 14. I was 8 of 14. George Grappler was 10 of 14 as well. I will go ahead and say I picked McCloskey and Reiner. You guys both picked Wilder and Cooper, Connor Cooper. That might have been the difference between our picks. We all got wrong. Josh Denson at 144, Emil Nekula at 150. Again, really close matches. I think Nekula lost by a point. Denson lost by a point or something like that. But at the end of the day, shout out to Gavin Pope, Malachi Sanders, and the rest that came through, even when they weren't picked.
Yeah, no, shout out to him. I mean, as well, a shout out to specifically Gavin Pope, because let's just say I got an earful after the state tournament. Let's just say that. But shout out, that's my boy. Yeah, shout out to all the champs out of 7. And shout out to, in general, if you made the top podium this weekend, congrats to you. Go get sized up for some jewelry.
No doubt. And the last one was you picked against Camden. The curse of Lucas DeSilva, fat and scrappy, did not work.
It looked great. It looked so good going into the semifinals. I was like, oh my God, they're up 20. And then I just watched the lead decrease. I watched Camden take over. I was like, oh wait, they're going to play. They did exactly what I said they were going to do. Like I said it to a T that they were going to somehow place 13. Mind you, they just said, we're not placing 13. We're going to place all of them because, Camden, like, Camden is the reason. But, like, it was exactly what I said would happen. Like, I couldn't have predicted it any better.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be fair, 8 in the finals, that usually gets you a state title. 14 on a podium usually gets you a state title.
Gets you a state title.
You just had both teams. I mean, 2 opposite teams who had both of those things. And I'll tell you what, it's amazing how good the competition was in 7A, and yet you still had Camden put 14 on the podium. I mean, it's just that is really amazing. And they're scary good, and they're young.
They're so young, bro. This was our chance. Georgia, this was our chance, and we blew it. I'm still picking against them, huh? I'm still picking against them.
All right, so I want to end by saying, like, we appreciate you guys watching. This is all for fun to promote the sport. We really have a good time in talking about all the different kids, how they compete, and everything else. For all of you that went out and looked at whether it was on YouTube or My Fans Guides or read Georgia Grappler and used it as motivation to get yourself to the top step, hats off to you, man. Fantastic job. No, not at all.
I will send in, if you ever need chalkboard material, I will send you a written letter with a signature and a 2-finger salute just to give you some extra motivation. Jess, you know where to find me. I will happily do that for your boys.
Well, and then to be fair, also on the other side, there were plenty that we all put targets on their backs. And they came through with flying colors, wrestled the lights out, and did what kind of the expectation was. Sometimes it's more difficult to have that expectation and to perform when everybody expects that to happen. So shout out to those guys as well, and girls as well.
Yeah.
All right, let's end it with 1 or 2 final thoughts from you before I wrap it up.
Big thing for me is, if you've seen my video I put on Instagram, I may very often, most of the time, damn near all the time, disagree with the GHSA and what they do. But I also want to give specifically, because I feel like some people misconstrued some of the things I say. So I want to take a moment to the volunteers, to the guys and gals that spend their weekends. My fight's not against you guys. You guys do everything that's asked of you to keep the tournament running as smoothly as possible. A salute to you. It has nothing to do with you. My fight is entirely different. I love and respect all y'all. Hell, most of y'all I've known since I was a baby before I was wrestling at the event than when I was wrestling in high school. So I've known most y'all, 10 some odd years, give or take. So that'd be one. And the other thing is, what I really loved was the level of wrestling this weekend was super high level. And it was impressive to watch. It was really impressive to see.
All right. And as Lucas helps Bruton Parker continue on to finish up their season, I will be at Elite 8. I'm hoping to be at NHSCA's in March in a few weeks. I do have Tennessee this weekend and then down in Florida the following weekend, which I think you're going to join me.
Yeah, the plan for me is Florida and Elite 8. I'll be back on a microphone at Elite 8.
But for the rest of you, we hope you have a great season, and you can look for Lucas's preseason rankings to drop somewhere, I don't know, probably June.
No, I think we're gonna do what we did last year. We're like early August. We put out the preseason, son.
Well, Lucas, I appreciate
everybody's
you doing
30
this.
pounds underweight. My predictions.
I appreciate you taking the time this year, man. We've had a blast,
bro. This year's been awesome. It's been a lot of fun, and I can't wait to do the same next year and continue kind of push the envelope with you and guys like. By the way, just a quick shout out to all the media guys, you, Grappler, Cloy, and obviously guys around Southeast that I met. Red Hoyt, Crank Matt Media, Ward, I'm missing people. And if I am,
It's not an award show.
Apologies.
Don't worry about it.
well, no, I got Ward this time. I got Ward because he'd fight me if I didn't this time.
He doesn't want any of that. All right, man. You take care. I appreciate it.
Yes,
man.
sir.
See ya.
All right, I'm out. Peace.